Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something I think we can all relate to. Scaling a startup, especially when, well, you don't exactly have a mountain of VC funding behind you.
Uh-huh, yeah. It's a pretty common challenge, I'd say. Every startup hits that point where the budget gets a little, shall we say, cozy.
Cozy, I like that. But here's the thing. Sometimes those limitations, those cozy budgets, they can actually be a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. They force you to get creative,
Yeah.
resourceful. And that can sometimes lead to some seriously innovative solutions you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
It's not about being cheap, right? It's about being smart. It's about
Yeah.
squeezing every ounce of value out of every single dollar.
It is. You've probably heard the term lean startup before, but what does that actually mean, when you're in the thick of it, actually building something?
Right. It can feel kind of vague.
Yeah, for sure. Think of it this way. Imagine you're building a car, right? The lean startup approach is all about getting a basic car on the road first.
Okay, I'm following.
You don't worry about leather seats or a fancy sound system or even tower windows. You just need to prove that thing can move. Get you from point A to point B. That's your minimum viable product, your MVP.
The MVP, yep, heard that one.
Once you've got that proof of concept, then you start adding the bells and whistles, based on what your customers are actually asking for and are willing to pay for.
So instead of sinking tons of time and money into features no one actually wants, you're launching something simpler, getting that real-world feedback.
Exactly. It's like, when you build a house, you don't start with the granite countertops and the fancy landscaping. You build the foundation, the structure. Then you add the upgrades later.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of streamlining things, let's talk about automation. I feel like this is something so many startups shy away from because they think it's, I don't know, expensive. Complicated.
It's way more accessible than people think. Honestly, there are so many affordable tools out there, even free ones, that can just take those tedious, repetitive tasks off your plate.
Give me an example. Where can startups really use automation to free up their time?
Okay, so customer support emails, right? Instead of answering each one by hand, you can use a tool like Zapier to connect your inbox to, say, a knowledge-based platform.
How smart.
Yeah. When a customer asks something, Zapier automatically checks the knowledge base for the answer. If it finds one, boom, instant reply to the customer.
So you're basically building an automated help desk. It's working even when you're not.
That's the idea. It lets your team focus on the more complex stuff and gives your customers faster answers. Everyone wins.
Okay, that's huge. What about other areas? Where else can automation help?
Invoicing is another big one. Chasing down payments is the worst. But platforms like FreshBooks, they can just, automatically generate those invoices, send them out, track them, even send reminders.
It's like having a robot accountant.
Pretty much. Saves you so much time and hassle.
I bet. Okay, what about social media? That can be a real-time suck for startups trying to build a presence.
Oh, for sure. But tools like Buffer or Hootsuite, they let you schedule posts in advance across all your platforms. You can literally plan out your whole week's worth of content in one go.
Mind blown. Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Working smarter, not harder.
That's the key. And actually, there's another big one. Email marketing. It's still incredibly powerful for connecting with your audience and driving sales. Platforms like MailChimp can segment your audience, personalize emails, even automate whole sequences based on what customers do.
Whoa. So you sign up for a newsletter and then automatically get a series of emails telling you all about the company.
Exactly. It's all set up beforehand.
This is amazing. It's like having a whole team of invisible assistants working for you.
That's the beauty of it. And speaking of building teams, let's not forget about the gig economy. It's a fantastic resource.
Oh, yes. Hiring full-time employees is a big commitment, especially early on.
It is. But with the gig economy, you need a killer landing page. You don't have to hire a full-time designer. Head to a site like Dribbble. Find someone whose style you love, hire them for the project, done.
Access to top talent without the overhead? It's like building your dream team on demand. What other kinds of tasks are good for freelancers?
Oh, pretty much anything you can imagine. Content writing, graphic design, web development, video editing, even virtual assistants. There are platforms for everything.
That's incredible. So how do you know when to outsource something versus hiring someone in-house?
Think about how often you need the task done, how long it'll take, and how complex it is. One-time project or something you need help with just occasionally, outsource it. But if it's a constant need and it needs deep knowledge of your business, then maybe a full-timer makes sense.
Flexibility is key. It's like being able to adjust your team size as you need without all the commitments.
Exactly. Startups need to be agile. Okay, so all this talk of automation and freelancers has me thinking about software. Traditional software can be so expensive. How can startups use tech without going broke?
Oh, this is where the cloud and open source software come in. It's like having a toolbox packed with amazing tools, a lot of them free or super cheap.
Right. It's game changing.
Walk me through some examples, like what about just basic communication and collaboration?
Instead of spending a ton on office suites, you can just use Google Workspace. Email, calendar, documents, video calls, it's all there and accessible from anywhere.
Oh, I love Google Workspace. So convenient. What about keeping projects organized?
Slack and Trello are great for that, team communication, task management, and they've got free plans that are perfect for startups starting out.
Okay, so we've got communication, project management. What about building a website? That can cost a fortune.
WordPress is still the king for that. So versatile, easy to use, and it's open source, so it's totally free. Plus, there's a huge community of developers and designers making themes and plugins for it. You can do anything with WordPress.
I'm loving all of this. It's like startups can get those big fancy tools without the big fancy price tag.
Agree.
But what about data? Data management gets expensive as you grow, right?
It can, but thankfully we have open source databases like PostgreSQL. They're robust, reliable, and way more affordable than commercial ones.
Okay, last one, and I'm really curious about this. AI and machine learning. It seems so complex and expensive, but it's the future. Can startups even use it?
Definitely. Open source comes in clutch again. TensorFlow is a fantastic open source library from Google. It's basically a whole ecosystem for developing and using machine learning models.
Wait, so I can use the same tech that powers Google's AI, but for free?
Yep, open source is amazing like that. It's leveling the playing field.
I love that. Okay, so we're using cloud tools, open source software. This whole pay-as-you-go model is perfect for startups that are growing fast. You can just scale as you need.
Exactly. No huge upfront investments.
This is making me think about resource allocation in a whole new way. It's not about cutting costs. It's about investing strategically. But let's talk about something I think gets overlooked. Customer retention. Startups get so fixated on getting new customers, they forget about the ones they already have.
That's such a missed opportunity. Keeping your current customers happy is like way cheaper than constantly finding new ones.
Preach. How can startups who are bootstrapping really prioritize that customer retention?
Think of it like tending a garden. You have to nurture those plants, give them what they need to thrive.
Love the analogy.
One of the most important things is just giving amazing customer support. Be responsive, helpful, really go the extra mile to fix their problems quickly.
It's not just about fixing stuff, though, right? It's about the whole relationship.
For sure. Make your customers feel valued, understood, appreciated, send personalized emails, offer them special deals, just, acknowledge their feedback.
And those regular product updates are important, too.
Totally. Shows them you're listening and constantly improving things. And here's a bonus. Happy, loyal customers. They often become your biggest fans. They'll tell their friends, write good reviews, basically do your marketing for you.
Word of mouth is the best marketing. Speaking of which, that can be another big expense for startups. How do we get our message out there without spending a fortune?
That's where the art of bootstrapping comes in. Get creative, find those low-cost ways to reach your people.
Lay it on me. What are your favorite bootstrapping tactics for a tight budget?
Content marketing is a big one. Create content that's actually valuable, educates your audience, entertains them, or inspires them. Could be blog posts, videos, even podcasts like we're doing right now.
Meta.
Exactly. Focus on quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Make stuff people actually want to read or watch and share.
Makes sense. Okay, what about social media? Everyone's on it, but how do you stand out without paying for tons of ads?
Social media needs strategy. Don't just blast out promotions. Engage with people, join industry conversations, run contests, partner with influencers. You want to build a genuine community.
It's all about building relationships.
Exactly. Okay, and then there's email marketing. Still super effective, but it can get pricey. The key is to build your list organically. Don't buy lists. It never works.
So how do you build it the right way?
Offer valuable stuff in exchange for email addresses, like free downloads, exclusive content, Give people a reason to sign up.
Got it. And then once you have that list,
Send regular newsletters that are actually valuable. Share updates about your company. Offer discounts. Just make your subscribers feel special, not like they're just another name on a list.
all great advice. But even with the best strategies, marketing takes time. And when you're a founder, time is precious.
You're right. Prioritize and delegate. Focus on the marketing that'll give you the biggest bang for your buck, and don't be afraid to outsource what you can't handle yourself.
Great point. And speaking of leveraging resources, let's talk about strategic partnerships. They can be game changers, especially on a tight budget.
They really are. It's like having a secret weapon. You can achieve so much more when you team up with businesses that complement what you do.
Give me some examples. How can startups use partnerships to their advantage?
Co-hosting webinars or events is a great way to tap into each other's audience. You can cross-promote each other's products or services to your customer bases. Boom! You're reaching new people without spending on ads.
It's a win-win. I love it. Any other examples?
Sure, sharing office space or co-working can seriously cut down on costs, especially in the early days when you don't need a huge office.
Makes sense. And I imagine partnerships can also give you access to specific knowledge that you might not have in-house.
Totally. Say you're a tech startup that needs help with marketing. Partner with a marketing agency that specializes in your industry. Leverage their expertise without having to hire a whole team.
So smart. It's important to emphasize, though, that partnerships should benefit both sides. It's not just about what you can get out of it. You got to bring something to the table, too.
Absolutely. A good partnership is one where both sides feel like they're winning and where your goals and values align.
Okay, we've covered so much. Lean startup mentality, automation, the gig economy, cloud-based tools, customer retention, bootstrapping marketing, and strategic partnerships. It's clear there are tons of ways to scale without breaking the bank. But before we wrap up, I want to touch on financial management.
So important. You can have the best strategies in the world, but if you're not managing your money well, it won't matter.
It's like building a house on a shaky foundation.
So what are some financial must-dos for startups on a budget?
First things first, you got to track your spending. Can't optimize what you don't measure.
Know where your money is going, yep. There are some great tools out there to help you do that, from basic spreadsheets to software like QuickBooks or FreshBooks.
So track, analyze, and then optimize. Shift those funds from things that aren't working to things that are.
Exactly. And that leads us to our next point, scaling gradually. One of the biggest mistakes startups make is trying to scale too quickly. It leads to overspending, messy operations, and burnout.
It's like trying to run before you can walk.
Right. Scaling needs to be a slow and steady process. Carefully test new markets, processes, or features before going all in.
How do you approach that gradual scaling? What are some key things to keep in mind?
First, you need a solid foundation. Your product needs to be good, your team needs to be on the same page, your operations need to be running smoothly. Then you can start experimenting with scaling.
Makes sense. Don't build a skyscraper on shaky ground. So once you have that solid foundation, how do you actually scale in a way that's sustainable?
Test new markets slowly. Maybe launch some targeted campaigns or partner with distributors in specific areas. Start small, gather data, then expand based on what you learn.
And I bet it's important to test new features or processes before you roll them out to everyone.
Absolutely. You can run A/B tests to compare different versions of your website or app, or try a new customer onboarding process with a small group before taking it company-wide.
Okay, so how do you know when you're actually ready to scale? What are the signs that your foundation is strong enough for the next level?
One important metric is your customer acquisition cost, or CAC. That tells you how much it costs to get each new customer.
And you want that number to be as low as possible, right?
Yep. As you scale, your CAC should go down. That means your marketing and sales are becoming more efficient.
Got it. What other metrics are important to track?
Churn rate. That's the percentage of customers who cancel their subscriptions or stop using your product over time.
You want that to be low, obviously.
Right. A high churn rate might mean there's an issue with your product, your pricing, or your customer experience. Time to pause, analyze, and fix things.
Okay, so track cake.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on churn. What else?
Revenue growth. Are your revenues steadily going up every month? That's a good sign you're on the right track.
And this is where that financial visibility we talked about is crucial.
Totally. You need to know your profitability, cash flow, and burn rate to scale sustainably.
Track the metrics, scale carefully, and what else? What's the secret ingredient that makes it all work?
The secret ingredient is your team. Your team is everything, especially when you're on a tight budget.
I couldn't agree more. And finding and keeping good people is hard for startups that can't offer huge salaries or fancy perks.
True. But you can create an environment where talented people feel valued, challenged, and inspired. You might not have the biggest paychecks, but you can offer something way more valuable: purpose, ownership, the chance to make a real difference.
I love that. So it's about sharing a vision of the future, inviting people to be part of something big, What are some tangible ways to attract and keep talent when you're on a budget?
Build a strong company culture. Define your values, your mission, your vision. Make sure everyone on the team is on board with what you're building.
It's not just about the big picture stuff, though, right? It's about the everyday experience of working there.
You're right. It's about creating a place where people feel supported, respected, and excited to come to work. Encourage collaboration, open communication. Make sure people feel valued and empowered.
So, strong culture, what else?
Offer opportunities for growth. Even if you can't pay the highest salaries, give people chances to learn new skills, take on new challenges, and advance their careers.
That's so important. What about compensation? Any creative ways to structure things when you're on a tight budget?
Think about equity or profit sharing. That gives employees a stake in the company's success. It's a powerful motivator.
Genius. So, strong culture, growth opportunities, creative compensation. Anything else to help people feel invested in the company's success?
Transparency. Be open and honest about your financial situation, the challenges you're facing, your goals.
Makes sense. When people feel in the loop, they're more understanding and supportive.
Exactly. And last but not least, celebrate the small wins. When you're bootstrapping, every victory, no matter how small, is a big deal. Acknowledge people's hard work, recognize their achievements, and create a culture of appreciation.
This is all such great advice. Building a resourceful team is key for scaling on a budget. It's not just about hiring, it's about creating a culture where everyone feels valued and inspired to do their best work.
It really is. When you have a team that's motivated, aligned, and empowered, you can do amazing things, even with limited resources. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect place to pause for it. We've covered so much already.
We have. Stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll go even deeper into the nitty-gritty of how to put all these strategies into practice, turning your startup into a lean, mean resourcefulness machine.
And we're back.
Picking up on that idea of a resourceful team, I think it really comes down to cultivating a certain mindset. It's not just about doing more with less, it's almost about turning limitations into fuel for problem solving.
Yeah. It's like those constraints force you to be more creative. Like if you had unlimited money and resources, you wouldn't need to be as scrappy. You wouldn't have to come up with those ingenious solutions.
Exactly. It's like that saying necessity is the mother of invention. When you're kind of forced to work within these tight constraints, you have to tap into a whole different level of creativity.
Okay, so I love this idea of constraints as a catalyst for innovation. But how do you actually cultivate that resourceful mindset within a team? How do you get people to really embrace limitations and see them as opportunities, not roadblocks?
Well, I think it really starts with the leadership. The tone has to be set from the top. As a leader, you have to embody that resourceful spirit yourself. Make it clear that you value creativity, ingenuity, a willingness to experiment.
Lead by example.
Exactly. But beyond just setting that example, there are definitely some more specific tactics leaders can use to encourage that kind of thinking, to really get people thinking differently about how to solve problems.
Give me some examples.
One powerful approach is to really encourage a culture of experimentation. Create a space where people feel safe to try new things, even if they might not work out. And even more important, celebrate those failures as learning experiences, not setbacks.
Yeah, I think so many startups get so caught up in the pressure to succeed
Yeah.
that they forget that sometimes failure is the best way to learn.
Oh, 100%. I always say failure is just data. It's feedback telling you what's working, what's not. And the faster you can fail, the faster you can learn and iterate your way to success.
I love that, reframing failure as data. So how do you create that environment where people feel safe taking those risks and experimenting without, feeling like they'll be punished if it doesn't work out?
Honesty. Transparency. Be open with your team about the challenges you're facing, the mistakes you've made, the lessons you've learned along the way.
It's about vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
When leaders are willing to be open about their own struggles, it makes it okay for everyone else to do the same.
Yes. It builds trust and authenticity. People feel more comfortable sharing their ideas, their concerns, even their failures, without worrying about being judged.
And I imagine that open communication also helps break down those silos and encourage more collaboration.
Oh, for sure. When everyone feels like they're in it together, they're more likely to support each other, share their knowledge and their resources.
Speaking of sharing resources, is there anything else leaders can do to foster that resourceful mindset?
Something that can be really effective is to encourage cross-functional collaboration. Get people from different departments working together. Break down those silos.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you make cross-functional collaboration happen organically without it feeling forced?
One way is to create cross-functional teams, give them specific projects or initiatives to work on. That way you've got people from marketing, product, engineering, all working together toward a shared goal.
So instead of everyone working in their own little bubbles, you're mixing things up and bringing in different perspectives and skill sets.
Right, and it can lead to some really incredible breakthroughs. When you have people from different backgrounds coming together, they can come up with more creative solutions. They can spot opportunities that they might have missed working alone.
I love how this all connects back to resourcefulness. You're not just leveraging the individual skills of your team, you're creating this synergy where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely, and that synergy is what allows startups to, punch above their weight and achieve things that they wouldn't be able to otherwise, even with those limited resources.
Okay, so we've talked about leading by example, building a culture of experimentation, transparency, and encouraging collaboration. Anything else leaders can do to really instill that resourceful mindset?
You know what I think is super powerful? Storytelling. Share stories of times when your team overcame a challenge, especially when they had to do it with limited resources. Celebrate those moments of ingenuity, and make it clear that those are the kinds of values you want to see more of.
Oh, I love that. Stories are so powerful. They connect with people on a deeper level. It's not just telling people to be resourceful, it's showing them what it actually looks like in action.
Exactly. And don't just share your own stories. Encourage your team to share theirs too. Create opportunities for people to celebrate each other and learn from those experiences.
This is starting to feel like more than just a few tactics. It's like a whole shift in the company culture.
You got it. It's about making resourcefulness part of your DNA. And that's how you build a team that's not just resilient, but truly unstoppable. When you have a team that's united by a shared purpose, empowered to take risks, and committed to finding creative solutions, there's honestly no limit to what you can achieve, resources or not.
That's such an inspiring vision. It really makes you think about what's possible when you have a team that's fully committed to making the most of every opportunity.
It all comes down to investing in your team. Especially when resources are tight, that's one of the most important things you can do as a startup founder.
Your team is your biggest asset. Yeah. They're the ones who are going to make your vision a reality. They'll solve the problems, and ultimately, they'll drive your success.
And when you empower them to be resourceful, you're not just maximizing your impact today. You're setting yourself up for long-term success.
Okay, this has been such a great conversation about resourcefulness and how it can really impact a business, especially a startup. But I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, there's so much more to talk about. We haven't even gotten into the nitty-gritty details of how to put all of this into practice, the actual tactics and tools you can use to optimize things and make that budget stretch further.
Well, good thing we have another part to this deep dive. Stay tuned because when we come back, we're getting into the practical stuff. We're going to show you how to turn your startup into a lean, mean resourcefulness machine.
Welcome back, everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm still thinking about that last conversation about resourcefulness. It's such a powerful idea, but now I'm ready to get into the nuts and bolts of it all, the practical stuff. I agree. It's one thing to talk about being resourceful, but it's another to, actually put it into practice. So let's get tactical.
Yes. Actionable advice. That's what I'm all about. But maybe we start with a quick recap of some of the key things we've covered, sort of like laying the groundwork for our resourcefulness toolkit.
I love it. Okay, so quick recap for anyone just joining us. Remember, we're not just talking about cutting costs, we're talking about making smarter decisions about how you use your resources.
Exactly. It's about squeezing the most value out of every single dollar. And that starts with, like we talked about, really embracing that lean startup mentality.
Right. Focus on what's truly essential, prioritize ruthlessly, and always be getting feedback to make sure you're on the right track. Don't waste time trying to make something perfect right away. Get that MVP out there, start gathering data, and let your customers guide you.
And speaking of working smarter, not harder, we talked about how automation can be a total game changer, especially when you're on a tight budget. There are so many tools out there that can handle those, like tedious tasks that would otherwise eat up all your time.
It's true. Customer support, invoicing, social media, even your email marketing. You can automate so much of it these days. It's like having a whole team of virtual assistants working for you in the background.
Sign me up for that virtual assistant life.
Okay.
And then if you need specialized help, There's always the gig economy. Sites like Upwork or Fiverr are amazing resources for finding talented people to help you out on a project basis.
It really is like having a global pool of talent at your fingertips, and you only pay for what you need, which is so important when you need to stay flexible as a startup.
Speaking of affordable resources, we can't forget about the cloud and all that amazing open source software out there. Seriously, they're total game changers.
It's incredible what you can get for free or, like, super cheap these days. Communication tools, project management stuff, content management systems, even AI and machine learning
It's
tools.
like a gold mine. And the beauty of the cloud is that you can easily scale up or down as your needs change. No need to overpay for stuff you're not even using.
Exactly. Flexibility and efficiency all the way. And of course, we have to talk about customer retention. It's so much more cost effective to keep your current customers happy than it is to constantly try to find new ones.
Preach. So how do we make sure those customers stick around and, maybe even become those raving fans who tell all their friends about us?
It all starts with providing incredible customer support. Be super responsive, helpful, go above and beyond to resolve any issues they have. Make your customers feel like they're your #1 priority, and they'll reward you with their loyalty.
It's about more than just solving problems, though, right? It's about building a real relationship with your customers.
You got it. Make them feel valued, understood, heard. Send personalized emails, offer them special discounts, just acknowledge their feedback and show them you care.
And I bet those regular product updates go a long way too, right? Shows them you're always working to make things better.
Absolutely. And those loyal, happy customers, they often become your best marketers. They spread the word for you.
Which brings us to another important point.
Yeah.
Bootstrapping your marketing efforts.
Yes. Marketing doesn't have to cost a fortune. There are so many clever ways to get your message out there without breaking the bank.
Get scrappy. Find those unconventional ways to reach your audience.
Okay, so tell me, what are some of your favorite bootstrapping tactics, especially for startups on a tight budget?
Content marketing is always a winner. Create high-quality content that your audience actually finds valuable. Educates them, entertains them, inspires them. Blog posts, videos, even podcasts like this one.
Love it. And then there's social media. Such a great way to build a community around your brand, but like there's an art to it, right? Definitely. It's not just about posting randomly. You have to be strategic. Engage with people, join conversations, run contests, collaborate with influencers. The key is to create content that people actually want to see and share.
And then, of course, there's email marketing. Still one of the most effective ways to nurture leads and turn them into paying customers.
Oh, for sure. But you have to do it right. Build your list organically. Don't buy lists. It never works. And focus on providing real value to those subscribers. Don't spam them. Build relationships and make them excited to open your emails.
Okay, so we're creating great content. Our social media game is strong. Our email list is growing. But let's be real. We can't do it all alone. That's where partnerships come in, right?
Partnerships are so powerful, especially for startups on a budget. It's a way to get access to resources and expertise that you might not have on your own.
It's all about finding those win-win collaborations. Connect with other businesses that complement what you do and figure out how you can work together to reach new audiences, share costs, or even just learn from each other's expertise.
It's like multiplying your impact without multiplying your spending. And don't forget, track your spending, analyze that data, and optimize your budget based on what you're learning.
Data-driven decisions are key. It's okay to experiment, but always track your results and be ready to adjust your approach if something isn't working.
And last but definitely not least, remember that your team is your most valuable asset. Build a culture where resourcefulness is valued. Empower your people to think creatively and make sure you're celebrating all those wins along the way.
This has been such a fantastic deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about how to really make the most of limited resources.
Me too. It's amazing what's possible when you're focused, you're resourceful, and you're willing to think outside the box. And really, that applies to so much more than just startups.
That's so true. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you found it valuable, inspiring, and maybe even gave you some new ideas to try out in your own business.
We'll be back soon with more deep dives into the world of startups, entrepreneurship, and all the exciting things happening in the world of tech and innovation. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep chasing those big, audacious dreams.